Kylie, thank you. My name used to be Dr. Tickell. Then I became a gynaecologist. So it's Tickell now, okay? Thank you, thank you. So, who invented the term OH&S? Anyone who hasn't heard of the term OH&S? Who invented it? Whoever did invent it, interesting, and there's an E in some of the things now, but they put the H before the S. And isn't it fascinating that anecdotal evidence suggests that 96% of the OH dollars in the corporate community is spent on safety and 4% or less on health? A little bit of an imbalance there, and one of the things we do know in the workplace, especially in the mining industry, that healthy people are safer people. Because, oh mate, we don't want Bill falling off the scaffold though, but... well, if Bill was probably a bit better in mind, body and soul, he may not fall off the scaffold. So, my first point of call is to suggest that whoever did invent that maybe thought health was... There's a continuum there, but that comes in the front of safety, because better people make better companies, and healthy people are safer people. Now, I love successful people. In the Western world, success is all based around numbers. How much, how many, how big, shareholder price, all that sort of stuff. Different from the Eastern culture, but in Western cultures, you know, the flashier the car, the bigger the house, the more money in the bank, all that sort of stuff. Oh, he's a real success, that guy. Okay, his third wife just left him and his kids hate his guts. But, oh, yeah, mate, he made $7 million. Interesting, isn't it? When you start, people say, oh, yeah, but how would you know anything about this? Well, my wife has 5 children. I'm pretty sure they're all mine. And 2 of those kids are medical doctors, and the 3 of us have in total visited over 100 countries on this planet. Any ideas how many countries there are in the world? About 220 something. So we've been half the countries in the world studying the living and eating habits of the longest living, healthiest people on earth. And it's fascinating when you look at the Eastern cultures versus the Western cultures. We live the American syndrome. And it's fascinating that life expectancy in the last century has gone up by 10 to 15 years. But the fascinating thing is in the first 50 years, that increase was all due to 3 things: sanitation, vaccination, and antibiotics. And some crazy parents are deciding not to vaccinate their kids. This is a herd thing, of course. My older son's a paediatrician. And if several kids aren't vaccinated and then they get the whooping cough or whatever, then it's a spreading thing. Interesting, isn't it? So that was life expectancy: sanitation, vaccination, antibiotics, and then there's now organ replacements and all that. But what the futurists are telling us now in the States is that your great-grandchildren will not live as long as you do because of the peculiar eating habits, the peculiar living skills, the peculiar social skills that we have today, where 65% of comments on social media are negative, blah, blah, blah. So we're bringing our kids up in an interesting world, which is, I love acronyms. And if you want to, people say in competition, I want to raise the bar. We all want to raise the bar, don't we? And the greatest thing you can do for your children, if you're family oriented, is be a role model, because, I don't know whether you realise this, but your child has an 85% chance of ending up like you or your partner. So if you're sitting there every night eating chocolate biscuits and drinking booze, your child thinks that's normal. If you did happen to take your partner around the block for a walk after your main meal when you get home, and there's another problem in the Western world, we eat all our food at the end of the day, what the hell are you going to do with all those calories? You're going to swing from chandeliers or just going to fall into bed? I mean, you're not burning anyone, are you? I mean, when you're asleep, you're burning 40 to 50 calories an hour. When you're sitting at a desk, you're burning 100. When you're walking, you're burning 300 an hour. But there are 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, half a kilo. So to walk off a pound of fat or half a kilo, you've got to walk for 12 hours. So if you have a Big Mac and fries every day, you add 1,000 calories. That means you've got to walk for 3 hours just to burn off your Big Mac and fries. And what are we doing to our kids? I mean, if the government had any guts, they would ban fast food advertising between 4 and 7 p.m. But they don't have those sort of guts. Not one thing the government have done in the last 30 years, not one scientific advance has made any difference at all to our rising incidence of childhood obesity and diabetes. Not one thing. So it's us, isn't it, the parents who are the role models, because your kids are going to end up like you. Role model, we love achieving in life. Achievement in life. And to achieve, I believe, we need to be inspired. Inspiration. I mean, who inspires you in your life? If you're in the Eastern culture, it's what they call a social connectedness thing. It's really interesting when one of the things that's missing in the Western world is this word called, the longest living people on earth, by the way, of all the countries me and my kids have visited, there are 3 contenders for the gold medal. One of the people who live off the southern end of Japan in the islands of Okinawa. You may have heard of them, been there several times, and you haven't probably. The Sardinians in the Mediterranean, and a crazy bunch of people, the Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California, who are total vegans and really boring because they never laugh. So if we look at inspiration, I mean, who is there someone that you could put your hand up now and say, oh, listen, I'm really inspired by, you know, is it a politician? Is it our prime minister? I'm not a political animal, but it fascinates me that we're now spending $50 to $60 billion a year treating the ongoing effects of diabetes and obesity, but we're about to spend $43 billion, which will be $73 billion, on making your kid's computer go 10% faster. Do you know anyone who died last year of a slow computer? So it's interesting, isn't it? The income and the outflows of various people inspire. Yeah, so I believe you've got to be inspired. I mean, kids have heroes. I've got my own TV show in America, and one of the things that I'm entitled to on the television show is talk about kids, because they're the future of our world. Their heroes, in order priority, are number 1, pop stars. This is American kids, but I'm sure we're following the same thing. Pop stars is number 1. Sporting heroes, especially for young boys, although Tiger's had a few social challenges. Cartoon characters is number 3, and parents are number 4. So parents have now slipped underneath of cartoon characters as role models for kids. So, yeah, I mean, my heroes, I've got heroes. I've got Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer that ever walked the fairways. It's interesting talking to Jack Nicklaus about winning in business and in life. And there are 9 secrets that he and various other people have put together that I'll enumerate if I've got time, because the last speaker has a family challenge, so we might have another 3 minutes. Jack Nicklaus said the definition of a champion is somebody who performs under pressure. He said most people can perform at a peak when they're not under pressure, but as soon as you start turning the screws in a major tournament on a Sunday afternoon, he knew if he was in contention that 90% of the other players were going to be falling to bits mentally. He said we could all have the same ability in hitting a ball, but it's above the shoulders, this bit up here, because the human body comes in 3 bits. Fairly simplistic. Even though I'm a medical doctor, I can draw for you. This is anatomy. That's activity. Neck below. You were born with 600 muscles and 180 joints. They can all hurt. Any idea what your peak potential physical age is?
About
19. 30 to 33 is your peak physical potential. We now peak in our mid-teens and go backwards from there. It's pretty sad, isn't it? My 8 grandchildren live on iPads. They're between 3 and 5 years of age. They live on iPads. How sad is that? How many people here work in front of a computer most days? 99%. So it's interesting when you start looking at the total reduction of activity of the human body and how disastrous that is. And we'll get onto that in a few minutes. But then the bit above your nose, that's for coping. We call that stress management, self-management. And the little bit in the middle here, that's the smallest part of your anatomy, and it gets you into the most trouble. Because we eat too much and we talk too much. Right? The great the great entrepreneurs of the world, their rule number one is shut up and listen. Because most people, A-type people, do you know what an A-type person is? A people are generally considered ambitious, fast-moving, often get aggressive. When things slow down, they tap their pen on the table, and their knee goes like this, and their foot goes like this, because things aren't going fast enough, And type A's hate red traffic lights. They go down 17 Science Street, get there at the same time, and at least they were doing something, they're involved. Type A males, it's easier to type yourself as an A male, because type A male always push the flush button on the toilet before they finish peeing. They're going like this, because they think it's going to happen faster. For women, it's a bit more difficult to do. What was that? That's why there's a mess. And it's even worse because they're automatic now. You're sort of looking for something to push, So that's the A person. And we know that A's have a higher risk in the Western world of heart attack. Absolute fact. These people have a higher risk of heart attack. People say, not many people have heart attacks. No, it's only 8 now. It's 200 a day. Hands up those who would like to be one of the 200 people tomorrow that have a heart attack. Takes 3 generations to prove a risk reduction, not 3 months. And who did the research? Cleo and Body and Soul. The research said. What research? Where? Who did it? Was there a control? You can't have valid research without a control group that's not doing what they're doing. So, the latest research says. I read in the paper yesterday, the Sydney, whatever it's called, that if too much coffee makes you fat. And they did research on 50 mice. At the University of Western Australia, and they didn't give them coffee. They gave them one chemical out of coffee. Anyway, the World Cancer Research Fund says if you eat more than 500 grams of red meat a week, not a meal, a week, so in the old, that's 16 ounces. If you eat more than 16 ounces or 500 grams of red meat a week, your risk of colon cancer, bowel cancer, and for every 100 gram extra, you increase your risk another 17%. So do you believe them, or do you believe Dr. Tickell and Dr. Atkins and the CSIRO? God, who sponsored their diet? Meat and Livestock Australia and the Australian Dairy Corporation. It's in the book. And their valid research, they put 50 fat women on a diet, a high protein, and 49 fat women, no men, on a lower protein diet. And do you know what the difference in weight loss was? Because I know all this. 0.7 kilograms in 12 weeks between the two diets. That's not statistically valid. And the CRI flogs 1 million books. And it's really interesting because at one end of the corridor at the CSIRO, they're saying, the environmentalists, the Eon rays is environment. We're supposed to look after our planet. Did you know the production of red meat in the world now, the carbon emissions equate to the carbon emissions from all the transport in the world? Fact. So Paul McCartney says to the European Parliament, we've got to have meat-free Mondays. They say, you're nuts. We've got a world to look after. I flew up on from Melbourne yesterday on a 767. They gave me 5 serviettes. I said, what are you giving me all this? We have to give you 2 with the drink and 2 with your meal. And I said, well, that's 4. But why do I need 5 serviettes? How many passengers on the flight? I don't know, pick a number, 300? That's 1,500 serviettes on one flight, and that aeroplane does 8 flights a day. And how many 767s have Qantas got? A lot. We're chopping down trees every day to give people... We're interesting, aren't we? We're interesting. So, I can prove it. So, the other thing that's killing us, of course, is cancer. What's the commonest cancer in Australia? Lung. 1 in 5 Australians smoke. Good luck to you. There's a 7 to 9 year differential. You don't care, do you? Because you're young and it doesn't matter. But and the government, do you reckon we should ban something that kills 33,000 Australians a year? People say, that'd never work, prohibition, bullshit. Well, the government does make $6 billion a year out of sales tax on cigarettes. And the average smoker goes 20 a day for 35 years. That's 250,000 cigarettes, the average smoker, and there's 10 puffs in a cigarette. I nearly said fag. So that's 2.5 million times 42 lethal poisons. Now the 200 rotten chemicals in every cigarette, and 42 of them are carcinogenic that cause cancer. People say, you can't prove that. I said, A, we can, and B, it's about risk. Now, let's say you walked across the M1 or the freeway, whatever you call it, 20 times a day with a blindfold on. I can't prove you're going to get hit by a car and killed, but Jesus, your risks are high. Risk and reward, you know. Anyway, good luck to you. What's the biggest killer in women? Cancer. Breast. I just told you the numbers, I can own here. So 1 in 9, it used to be 1 in 12, now 1 in 10, now 1 in 9 women get breast cancer in Australia, 1 in 9. When I graduated as a doctor 46 years ago, 1 in 10 Australians were diagnosed with cancer, 1 in 10, now it's 1 in 3. So either you or your partner or your best friend will get cancer. People say, you wouldn't know anything about that. Oh, well, I've had brain cancer. People say, well, health doesn't work, obviously. Interesting. I guess the only reason I survived is when I was diagnosed with 5 cancerous tumours in my brain and they couldn't operate because they were too close to whatever. I said, what's next best? And they said, this triple chemotherapy, da-de-da-de-da. And they said to my wife, oh, you know, the doctor's going to lose all his hair. She said, you can't kill barbed wire. So they said, well, at least you got a chance because all your health scans and PET scans and all those scans, you're healthy enough to potentially survive the deadly chemo, because if you're a fat diabetic, the chemo would kill you. So let's give it a go. So, and then you look at colon cancer. Here's your, this is another anatomy lesson. This is your intestines. That's the wide end, we call it your mouth. This is the other end, we call that the other end. Somebody said to me the other day, Doc, mate, that's why we get fat. The holes are different sizes. And the slower all the stuff goes through there, the higher is your risk of hemorrhoids, piles, diverticulitis, ulcers, bowel cancer. People say, what do you mean? Slow? How do you slow it down? I say, well, don't do that meal called, you can be inactive. That slows it down. Sit in front of your computer all day, why don't you? And you could miss that meal called break fast. People say, breakfast. I said, no. Some idiot 200 years ago was in a hurry and they put it's 2 words, break fast. Breaks a 17-hour fast between dinner last night and lunch today. So you have to get up 4 minutes earlier in the morning and stick the roughage in the pipe. And there's only roughage. Fibre is only in plant food. Katie, only in plant food. Fibre. People say, mate, I baked an egg. I said, 0 fibre. By the way, if you're going to do an egg, you're going to eat the shell if you want a lot of calcium. That's the other interesting thing about the dairy corporation. So you've got to have, dairy to get strong bones. I'll give you a fact of life. The countries that eat the most dairy in the world have the highest risk of broken bones in mature age. Hips and wrists. Fact. It's not dairy, it's banging your bones. See, once you hit your peak physical, say you hit 32, if you don't move a muscle every 48 hours, that muscle is disappearing. That one too. If you don't bang your bones on the ground every 48 hours once you've hit 30 and take your bones for a walk, the calcium's leaving town. People say, mate, well, I take calcium pills. I said, whoopee-doo. I said, why don't you eat some food with calcium in it? Like, fish, beans, nuts, there's plenty. The Okinawans, once they come off the breast, they never have any dairy for the rest of their life. They don't get broken bones. Interesting, isn't it? They don't get bowel cancer. There's 0 diabetes. The risk of colon and breast cancer is that high. They're active every day. They work in the fields every morning till they drop dead. There's nobody saying, you're over 65, you're supposed to be retired. There's nobody on the say, how old are you? Because age is a number, but I can, in most cases, on Today's Show, I did, with Carl Stefanova a couple of years ago, we did 10-10-10. I said, Carl, around Carl's waist in 80 days, you're going to lose 10 centimetres around your waist, 10 kilos, and you'll be 10 years younger. He said, how do you know? I said, I'll do the computer program. Oh, will I? He did it in 59 days, just eating good food. And people say, mate, I haven't got time to exercise. I said, well, how long do you like to sleep, sir? Is that Bryce? Yeah. G'day, Bryce. I had a beer with you last night. Couple. How long do you like to sleep? 6, 7, 8? Righto, Bryce sleeps 7 hours. That means, Bryce, do the math, you're awake 17 hours every day. That's 34 half hours. So in a week, you're awake for 238 half hours. And people look at me and say, oh, mate, I said, can't you find 5 or 6 of those 238 half hours you're awake to take yourself for a walk? I mean, excuse the language, you're full of shit. I mean, that's pathetic. What sort of a role model are you for your parents, your partner, your kids? You can't find 5 of the 238 halves. You're awake to take yourself for a walk. I mean, that is crap. So time is not an issue. People say, well, what do I do? It's for walking, you know. I've got plenty of people who've walked off 50, 60 kilos by cutting out the crap. We eat everything that's refined, processed. We're good at it. What do we got here? Oh yeah, our life expectancy has probably peaked, but our health expectancy is getting worse by the day. We now get sicker earlier. We're having, you know, all the people in the money market 24/7, you know, they used to go to sleep. Now it's Hong Kong, New York, blah, blah, blah. They're having heart attacks in their late 30s. And, you know, the kids' cancers and kids' allergies. 50 years ago, 1% of kids had an allergy. They used to fall out of trees, roll around the dirt, play mud pies. They used to build up an immune system. Now, we wrap them up in cotton wool and stick them in front of TV sets and computers. 35% of our children have an allergy now. They never get dirty. Geez, we're precious, aren't we? The value of human life. Remember 9/11? This is name dropping. I was in Donald Trump's office on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. They're the only country in the world that gets the date back to front. It's 11/9, not 9/11. Anyway, the reason, and obviously the planes flew into the buildings, was 9/11 is their emergency number. Our emergency number is supposed to be 000, but some people still dial 000, which is on a mobile phone. O is 6. And so it's interesting, isn't it? And now 18% of calls to 000 are hoax calls. I was at the MCG in Melbourne last weekend at a footy match, past players thing, and at halftime they put a sign up on the scoreboard. If you run onto the MCG ground at halftime, it's a $7,000 fine. How many people run onto the MCG? None. If you break the speed limit on the road, you're a criminal. Let's say you break by 20 k's, 30 k's, you get fined, what, 200 or 300? What would happen if it was 7,000? Would you speed? What would happen if you made a hoax call to 000 and you got fined $7,000? Would you do it? Interesting life we live, isn't it? $7,000 fine to run on the MCG, and it stopped like that. I mean, if they put, people say, oh, it's only, 1,000, 2,000 get killed on the roads every year. That's not many, is it? I said, I don't know, is it? Like if your child or your cousin or your mother is killed in a car accident, the two biggest things, 80% is either alcohol or speed. Speed kills. People say, oh, not really. I said, well, do you know anyone last week who walked into a tree and killed themselves? Speed kills. $7,000. You wouldn't do it, would you? So the value of human... Anyway, 9/11, do you know how many people died in the towers? 9/11? Do you know how many people died the same day of diabetes in America? 3,000. And every day since. We don't care. So how do we bridge the gap? We'll give you 2 minutes each on activity. How are we going, Kylie? Am I in trouble? Am I? For how long? 5, 10? Yeah. So we'll do 2 minutes on each of activity, coping and eating. This is the pie chart, no pun intended, but in the Okinawan way, this is us, America. 50% of our food intake is meat and dairy. Processed junk and gunk, refined crap, makes up 30, and the last 20% we eat is real decent food. In restaurants now, you say, oh, you go to the best restaurant in Sydney, the steakhouse. What do I say, mate? I want a steak. I'll pay you, I don't care, 38, 40 bucks. Here's the plate. Here's the steak. Asparagus and 2 peas, right? You say, where's the vegetables? So, madam, tonight, spinach is $7 and carrots are $8.50. So what? I've got to pay extra for the real food. Imagine going to a Ma and Pa Vietnamese restaurant and being charged extra for the broccoli. Geez, we live a strange life, don't we? So, yeah, that's us. So 20% of our food is whole food. In the islands of Okinawa, More 100-year-olds there than any place in the world per head of population. 85% of their intake is low HI, low human interference, natural food. Fish, 10%. Our fish is 1%. In America, mainly bloody prawns. And their meat and dairy is virtually negligible. And if they do eat meat, which is an average of once a month, they kill the beast and cook it on that day because they don't have refrigeration. So everything they eat fish most days of their lives, but they catch it that day and eat it. People say, oh, I'm not going to go fishing every day. I say, yeah, but you can go down the market. See, if you go to the market, people say, oh, no, I go to the supermarket. I say, why don't we get rid of the super and go to the real market? People say, oh, well, you know, but. I said, but what? I said, well, you've got to read the labels. I said, why? The good food doesn't have labels on it. If an orange had a label on it, you would shit yourself because it would say this is 88% fructose sugar. Oh, it's bad. It's fruit sugar, darling. It's all right. I mean, every woman in the room would know what GI is, glycemic index. 1/3, doesn't work. 1/3 of foods have a GI, carbohydrates. And then Americans have wrecked that word. They've taken the hydrate and said, oh, carbs, muffins, donuts. Carbohydrates are the best food on earth. Fruits and vegetables. They're full of hydrate, water. Asians don't drink 8 glasses of water a day. Whoever invented that, oh, you've got to drink 8 glasses of water a day, does it because we're on all this high protein, high fat crap, and we've got to hydrate ourselves because we don't get out of our food. Funny, aren't we? And we drink water out of plastic bottles. Do you know to make 5-litre plastic bottles takes 1 litre of oil? Do you know that? And when the plastic heats up, the BPAs, Dr. Ross Walker, listen to him, they're poisons. So as soon as your water bottle gets hot, you're drinking poison. That's us. So anyway, that's a pie chart. Personality types, we've been through them. A types of these people, B's a bit more relaxed, but they never do any good in business, B's, but they live a long time. Maybe there's a chance of being both. You know, at work is, yes, go, but then you've got to be able to switch off. Most people, I heard one of our presenters this morning say most people don't know how to switch off. And all the autogenic training and everything's brilliant, but, you know, let's go back to the lands of Okinawa. They don't know anything about autogenic training. They do what we call diaphragmatic breathing, which is belly button. So if you, see, when you're stressed, you're breathing with the top third of your lungs, like this. You breathe 15 times a minute. You're not getting any oxygen, or very little. But if you were taught to sing, you're taught to use your diaphragm. Now, practically, put your hand on your belly button and make sure when you take a long breath that your belly button comes out 1 or 2 inches. You're now breathing with your diaphragm. So if you did 2 or 3 of those every half hour, I can get my blood pressure down to 115 on 75 anytime I like. I can get my pulse rate under 55 beats a minute anytime I like, with some deep breathing and then, you know, the dreaming. Where do I want to go? I want to go to the beach, mountain grove, trees, whatever. You got to dream. You know, marriages fall to bits. 40% of marriages crash. People say, oh, yeah, but. I said, but what? I said, did you do the 3x3 last year? What? What's that? I said, so did you and your partner go away for 3 days, 3 times last year, just the 2 of you? What? Mate, that's 9 days. I said, yeah, but like a marriage is a working thing. You've got to keep going. Oh, by the way, why did you marry your wife? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, I thought I was in love with her. Right, okay. So what were the sort of things you were doing to attract? Oh, mate, I used to, you know, buy flowers and take the movies and maybe to dinner and stuff. I said, right, so have you done any of those 3 things in the last month? What? Like, I'm married. I said, but you won't be soon. See what women want. Mel Gibson thought he knew, but women are different. I mean, women have different hormones, and women, see, women are more aware because they're used to having things done. They have babies, you know. I mean, I delivered 400 babies. This woman was in a bar, and the guy walks up and says, madam, can I buy you a drink? Quite an attractive girl. I said, can I buy you a drink? She said, oh, no. She said, alcohol affects my legs. He said, what, do they swell? She said, no, they spread. So all I'm saying is the hormonal status is different. And when we talk about menopause, there is no word in the Okinawan dialect that says menopause. And it's a stupid word, it's very sexist. It should be womanopause or personopause. Because all women's problems start with men, menopause, menstruation, menarche, mental illness, it all starts with men, right? And so men have to learn what women like and what women want. And then a relationship has a chance. So the hormone thing, people say, oh yeah, but the menopause, the hormones dive like this. I said, yeah, well, testosterone also dives in men slowly, but it still does. So men have menopause. That's, when they get their second childhood and go and buy a Porsche as a penile substitute or something, or one of those sort of things. But it happens to both sexes, but it's more publicised that it's, a women's thing. It's both, and we have to look after one another. Spirituality is the biggest thing, the difference in Okinawa, which is the S in raise, the social connectedness. People who become, how it used, the recluses, don't have a life. People who hide themselves from the rest of the world, and social connectedness, the biggest thing is family. You've heard of the word life. What a fabulous word it is. Love. L-I-F-E. What would happen, let's suppose you took the F out of life. What's left? A lie. There's millions of people out there living a lie because of the relevant Fs. I mean, the big Fs, of course, are family, fun, friendships, and faith. And people say, oh, you're going to talk about religion. So, no, I'm not. Religion is part of spirituality, but some people say, oh, you can't be a Christian because that guy died on the cross and they stuck him in a cave and 3 days later he's alive. I mean, that doesn't work for me. I say, well, fine, but there are belief systems. Spirituality is a belief in something bigger than yourself. It's a reason to exist. It's a sense of fair play. You either do the Donald Trump thing, win, lose, I win, you lose in business, or you do the Branson thing, which is win-win, I win, you win. Let's work together and make this happen. Okay. So the Okinawans have this inner belief that there is goodness in every human being. Put the F back in your life. I got 3 minutes left, that's it. Kylie, I promise. George Burns. George Burns, he's a hero. Nicholas is a hero, Burns is a hero. He lived till he was 100. He kept working till he was 99. He did his last job for the AFL because I was involved in it. He made 2 ads. One if he was still alive when they showed it, and one if he was dead. He fell over in the bath. Anyway, George Burns, it's interesting because people say, oh, I'm not sure whether I want to be that sort of a fanatic. I said, well, the interviewer said to George Burns on his 100th birthday, he said, George, he says, what's your doctor say about you still puffing away on a cigar now and again? He said, my doctor's dead. So George Burns taught me one thing, everything in moderation, except 4 things. Everything in moderation except laughter, sex, vegetables and fish. No particular order and not all together, it makes a hell of a mess. Laughter and sex are the best 2 stress cycle breakers known to the human system. We don't know the 1 and 2 or 2 and 1, but if they come together, you're getting old. Is that right, Bryce? Vegetables, Katie, eaten by the race of people in the world who live the longest and feel the best. And the fish story is pretty impressive. Race of people who average 3 to 4 meals of fish a week have an incidence of heart attack, stroke and many cancers, way under half of normal Western populations. People say, oh mate, fish has got mercury in it. I said, yeah, how do you know? So I read in the paper. I said, did you? Wow, the Okinawans eat fish every day of their lives. I'm a medical doctor. None of my medical colleagues have ever seen anyone with mercury poisoning. There's more heavy metal in a packet of cigarettes than a whole shark. So, yeah, George is a hero of mine, and we'll finish up now with famous sayings. Nuchi Gusui is a famous Japanese saying, may your food and your lifestyle heal. So the next burger and fries meal you have, is that healing you or hurting you? Australian USA, you want fries with that? Every child meal in a restaurant in America has got fries with it. And 90% of kids' meals here are the same. I've got a bunch of fries. People say, oh, well, you need willpower. I said, no, you need won't power. Of the 100 fries, I won't eat 94. People say, what, just eat 6? I said, yeah, that's called won't power, not willpower. It's this. So do you want to bridge that gap? It's really interesting, the gap from the dream to the reality. Only 4% of people do it. Joanne was on Eddie's show on Channel 9 called The Great Weight Debate. She'd tried every diet, 94 Ks, nothing to wear. stressed to the eyeballs. She won the thing. That happened to her in 8 weeks, and she's kept the weight off and looks like that 5 years later. See, the great test of a diet, people say, oh, is that diet any good? I'm on. I said, well, how long have you been on it? Oh, 3 weeks. You know, I've lost all this meat. I mean, all this Biggest Loser crap. I mean, they feed them 10 litres of water before they weigh in on the first week. So immediately they lose 10 kilograms of water in the first few days. 5 years later, Kate was told she'd never get pregnant. Why do women fall pregnant? I fell pregnant. I said, what did you do? Standing up in the shower. You didn't fall pregnant. Anyway, Kate and her husband weighed 250 kilograms. She was told she had polycystic ovarian syndrome, would never get pregnant. Anyway, they went on my program on Channel 9, Overhaul, and they lost 100 kilos between them. And now Kate, I've got the picture, Kate and Sean have got 2 kids. Interesting. Selena was a plus-size model. She'd come home, she'd go to work, and people say, oh, you're beautiful, don't you dare lose weight, you know, and she'd go home, look in the mirror and cry because she said, I want to look like when I got married, and so that happened to her on the TV show. That was 8 weeks later. The interesting story with Selena, she went through a very horrible divorce because most women's eating is emotional. She went through a horrible divorce and she started eating again as a comfort thing, and she's put most of the weight back on. She rang me the other day crying and said, I don't know why I've done this, but I just had to do it. And this is my superstar in Tassie, Debbie. She rang me and she said, Doctor, she said, right, I'm in this competition, what have I got to do? I said, well, stop eating crap, eat real good food, like low human, every food you put in your mouth's got to be fresh. What do you mean? She said, I don't go to a supermarket. I said, no, just go to the real market. And the only oils you can use are olive oil and fish oil. That's it. No other oils. She said, right, let me write that down. Olive oil and fish oil. Okay, and do I have to go to the gym? I said, no, can you walk? She said, oh, I've got arthritis and stuff. I said, where do you live? She said, on a little farm in Tassie. I said, you got a dam on your farm? She said, a little dam. I said, I want you to walk around it every day. She said, every day, for how long? I said, a year. She said, what? I said, ring me in a month and tell me, no, ring me after day 1, tell me how long it took. And she rang, she said, oh God, it took me 3/4 of an hour to walk around the dam. I said, ring me in a month. She said, what? I said, walk around it 30 more times, every day. She rang me, said, oh, 34 minutes. I said, right, ring me in 3 months. Anyway, at the end of the year, unbelievable. Do you know what she did then? She went and had lap band surgery after she'd lost all the weight. I said, what the hell are you doing? She said, I'm so scared I'm going to put it back on. And it's free in Tasmania, just line up. And you get 27 psychiatrists saying you need a lap band, and that's 15 grand. But who pays the 15 grand? The taxpayers. So James Packer can afford his own, and lap band surgery's got a 55% failure rate because people know how to cheat. They learn how to cheat. But if somebody lines up and sees 7 psychiatrists and they say, you've got to have it done, we're paying for it. Is that a good idea? When we're paying for somebody, is there a responsibility? Should somebody else pay our mortgage or something? I don't know. It's about life's a balance, isn't it? See, wherever you've got zeros, money, big money in life, business, sport, there are going to be cheats. You'll never stop cheats. It's how you scare the shit out of them. And so if you're caught running onto the MCG, it's $7,000. So he got caught. Interesting, on Oprah he said, I don't think I'm a cheat. She said, what do you mean? He said, the definition of cheating, Oxford Dictionary, you're getting an unfair advantage. I said, I didn't have an unfair advantage because 90% of my mates are on the same stuff. Interesting, isn't it? But he was a drug cheat, but it's brought, and he helped save my life. Anyone here read the book called It's Not About the Bike? Unbelievable. My cancer specialist said, oh, you know, you've been going all right 3 or 4 years or something. I said, am I cured? He said, no, you don't use the word cure. He said, it's called remission. I said, well, Lance is 15 years. What's he? He said, he's in remission. I said, he could get hit by a bus. He said, I've done the stats. Do you know how many people in America last year got killed, hit by a bus? I said, no. He said, 1. Miami Airport, 16th of November. Looking the wrong way. Interesting, isn't it? So, out of every crisis comes an opportunity. I haven't got time for the 9 secrets of winning and all that. This is a few little things that happened to me. I'm the only doctor here in the world who has had a #1 top 40 hit record, won a Melbourne Cup with the great DeRemus, and survived brain cancer so far. Built a couple of things. Actually, Clive owns this joint now. He stuffed it up by putting dinosaurs all over the place. That's my gorgeous wife. She's 63 and got 5 kids. She's a personal trainer. It's really interesting because Sue says the #1 want, women over 35, people over 35, they want to wear a sleeveless dress. I said, what, women too? And she said, yeah. But all the little things you can do, Sue says, if you do this, if you do that, 10 of those, 10 times a day, she said, in a month you can wear a sleeveless dress because the canteen arms disappear, all those little things, little things. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds on activity, coping and eating, something to take away. Take away. One of the biggest workers' comp claims, obviously the biggest, is injury. And one of the injuries is crook backs. We have weak core muscles. Now people say, oh, you've got to do 4 million sit-ups. That doesn't improve core muscles. Pilates does, Joseph Pilates, 1920, invented for ballet dancers. But if you want to improve your core muscles, lie on the floor with your knees up like that and do what we call a nut lifter. Pull your testicles up and just bring your shoulders off the floor. If you haven't got any testicles, pretend you have. If you did that 5 times, 6 times a day, then you'll start to improve your core muscle strength. Other takeaways, portion size. Anyone here from Melbourne? I was the Richmond Football Club. I've been the club doctor for Richmond with Tommy Hafey Brass in the North Melbourne glory days and Hawthorn. And Tommy Hafey said to me one pre-season, he said, the whale Roberts, huge player. He said, he's too fat. He said, put him on a eating and drinking, a diet. I said, I don't do diets, I do programs. He said, righto, tell him what to do and what to drink. I said, and a month later, he said, Tommy, get the whale in here, it's not working. He said, whale, he said, you doing what the doctor said? He said, yeah. He said, are you eating exactly? Yeah. And drinking? Did the doctor say you can have anything to drink? He said, 2 beers a day. He said, are you sticking to that? He said, yeah. He said, what size? He said, jugs. So people say, oh yeah, but it's the poor. The last time I was in Vegas, the meal I ordered would have served 47 people. Huge. Americans eat a lot of food. So do we. So do we. And the last thing, and the takeaway is the GI thing, HI, human interference, everything that goes in your mouth, whether it's a food or a drink, how much or how badly has a human being stuffed it up? Because the more they've had a crack at it, the worse it is for you. So activity, move for 1% of your life. There's 168 hours in a week, 1.68 is 100 minutes a week. It's 4.25s, it's 5.20s. And don't tell me you haven't got time. You've got 238 half hours you're awake. Coping. Who's hugged someone they love in the last 48 hours? Half. Not good enough. Who's taken 3 deep breaths with their diaphragm twice today? Yeah, 6. Well done. The 1%ers. When is the last time you sent somebody a thank you note? In the last week, a thank you note? We used to pick up a pen and write a thank you note and lick a stamp. It's the most amazing thing to get an actual letter from someone saying thank you for something. Do it. All those little things, And activity, coping and eating, plant versus non-plant. More plant, less flesh. Because most of the flesh in the Western world is full of bloody steroids, antibiotics and hormones. Chickens, I don't eat much chicken. If you're going to eat chicken by 100 at a time, live, line them up, make them run 100 metres. The ones who win, throw them away. They're full of steroids and antibiotics and everything. Farmed fish? No, fresh fish. 50% of the beef in our country got hormone pellets in their ears. Make them fat, get more money at the market. Activity, coping and eating. I'm going to give you something. There's no more. Is there any afternoon tea or not?
No, there's not. You've got about 2 minutes.
Righto, I'm going to give you something free. I work for a charity called, ever heard of Life Education? It's the best education for young kids about drug use. The biggest social problem in our world today is kids on drugs. It's useless telling teenagers about it because they know everything. But we take the caravans, the primary schools invite us to go around and to take the kids in the caravan, show them about all the 3 legal drugs, of course, we're all imbibing is caffeine, alcohol. The cat's caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, sugar. They're all stimulants. Sugar's not a drug, but caffeine, alcohol and tobacco are. So we use them sparingly maybe, but not, we overdose on them. But the real drugs out there, you can buy drugs at any nightclub in Australia tonight. It's a disaster. Imagine if they had a cop on every door and they hauled suspicious people down and did a drug test. $7,000 fine. Interesting, isn't it? But the education, and so if you want to buy one of my famous laughter sex books, they're $20 for the kids. I'll be out there for, 3 minutes, Kylie? And if you want to do the program, the 91 days thing, it's a company spend $1 a day, $91, and that works all over the world. So if you want one of these, I will give you that signed and a hug for a $20. And I was going to wish you good. You don't need good luck. You just need good self-management skills. And remember two things: better people make better companies, and healthy people are safer people. Cheers.